I want to, and where's Tori? All I see is waves following around the camera. I'm like, he could shoot. I know I'm going to win. I know. All right. We've been in a series on strategy called The Art of War. The Art of War. It is technically my absolute favorite book. I've been reading it every year for several years at the top of the year, honestly, because updating, revisiting, and determining strategy is needful for everybody. Scream yes. I was blessed today with the actual physical copy of the illustrated version of this, and this is important. Art of War was written BC, and War Master Sun Tzu was 30 when he conquered from the smallest place in Asia, the largest place. So it's a very, very, very powerful book. If you've never read it, again, I told 8 o'clock this morning, I need this church to have a value for scholarship, because scholarship saves lives. And what I mentioned to them is that somebody around the world is dying because of somebody else's willful ignorance, either in how the gospel is appropriated to preach or presented, connected to school. Systemic ignorance is the root of systemic poverty. So scholarship really does save lives. So you don't have to be some person with a lot of degrees and all of that, but you do need to be a lifelong student. If nobody challenges you, you should challenge yourself all the time. And we need not be the type of people that only study when it's time for a test. You need to throw yourself in a life of study. Say yes. All right, let's give me my PowerPoint. I'm going to give you, this is the conclusion of the matter. And this is the most important component of the art of war. How many of you have been challenged in this whole issue of strategy? Okay. How many of you don't care about strategy? Okay. So the issue of strategy is vitally important for anything you're building in life. If you're starting something, if you're finishing something, I think there's even a way. You may disagree with me, and you're allowed to do that. I think some of these principles are also appropriate for relationships, understanding how to move and how to maneuver in relational landscapes and rooms. So this is very important to develop strategic thought, to develop strategic appropriation. There's a scripture, I believe, in Proverbs 21. Let me give that to you. Hold on. That was really ghetto to say hold on like I'm on the phone. Yeah, let's, before I go there, I want you to pull up Proverbs 21 and 31 in the NIV. Proverbs 21 and 31 in the NIV. If you've engaged the material, you've already found out that this book is very much proverbial in the sense that its design is very line upon line, precept upon precept. It's not a huge poetic book. It's written very principled in its style. And there's a scripture that I want to start with that I think is going to help you with this. Proverbs 21 and 31. If you're there, say, I'm there. If you're not there, say, wait on me. In the NIV, thank you, it says this: the horse is made ready for the day of battle, but victory rests with the Lord. Let's read it again. The horse is made ready for the day of battle, but y'all sound so lost. Let's say it again. The horse is made ready for the day of battle, but turn the light back on. Where is victory? Where is victory? Where is victory? So here is where we're going to go today. The objective of all warfare is victory. Please write it down. The objective of all warfare is victory. We do not want to engage in conflict, in challenge, in conflict, or any of that just to remain there. If I'm fighting to win. So the objective of warfare is victory. Does that make sense to you? You may as well not even fight if you are expecting to lose. If you do not want to win, don't go into war. It is a waste of your time. And I really believe that the purpose of this installment is, you need a fresh definition for what victory is. When it comes to what you're building, when it comes to how you're appropriating it, victory is one of those words that gets so lost in Christian jargon that we don't understand exactly what it is or how to pursue it. But if you have been in a battle, you need to know when you're give one. If you're planning something, if you are designing something, what does a win look like for us? Before I give you the principles, let me give an example of what that looks like. If you're designing a team for a project, if you are building a conversation for a product, it is always a misuse of resources to not begin with the win. You have to design the team, and in order to correct, to give wisdom, to appropriate money, you need to know, what does a win look like for us? For example, if I'm going to start everybody's a consultant now, so let's say I'm going to start a seminar. What is a win? Is a win for us that people come. Is a win for us that I can use this event or this discussion as the prelude to something else. In my book, this doesn't have to be for you. If we're going to have an event, the real success of the event is what I'm able to do after it. It's not just creating something that people enjoy. Listen, we don't pay money for experiences alone. If I can't leverage some momentum, some profitability from the event, then no matter how many people enjoyed it, it was a failure. That's me. It doesn't have to be you. So when we do conferences, when we do gatherings, I'm not looking at how many times people fell out or how many times the lights worked on. I'm looking on, did this moment create momentum? Did what we do allow for us to do more when nobody's looking? Pay attention. If you get into event-based living, event-based business, event-based all of that stuff, then those in-between spots where there's nothing to do is going to be a loss of momentum. And when you don't have momentum, there is very little you can do. Momentum is like the wind behind the sail. You set up something and the breath of God, the favor of God, the conversations of God come to blow to move you in the direction of victory. Does this make sense to you? So you need to identify what is a win. In strategy, if I've had a conversation with my child, what is the outcome of this? Do I want to use, listen, a moment of correction to punish them for bad behavior? Or do I want to use this moment of correction to further sculpt the heart? It may feel the same, but it's different. If I beat you, or forgive me for mandated reporters, if I muff you, let's say muff, if I, come over here, boy, is the real fruit or is the real reward of that you stop doing it, or that you learn why not doing it is good? It's different. You may stop doing it now, but all you're doing is postponing your desire to do it at some point. If I use this conversation to instruct you about why this is not good for you, then even though you stop doing it now, what I've also done is I've got a hold of your understanding about why this is not good for you. Does this make sense? As a parent, a part of what you're supposed to be doing is making your kids profitable to society. And if you're not strategic in how you're parenting, you're putting your problems on the world. Does that make sense? A lot of criminal behavior, not all, but a lot of criminal behavior started with non-strategic parenting. Okay, so this matters to everything you do in life. God has been dealing with me about how unready I am for the coming responsibilities. About how unprepared. I want you to hear this. If God starts to show you what's coming next, He is not trying to encourage you. He's trying to educate you about the lifestyle changes you have to make to stand under new pressure. You don't like this. Sometimes when God says this is coming, that is coming, we go immediately into gratitude and not education. While I'm grateful about what the Lord is doing, I'm sober about how unprepared I am for it. So then the space between announcement and readiness is called regiment. There is a strategy. Okay, let me bring it to all nations level. Even deliverance is a strategy. Once we've unseated, come out, go. Once we've done all that, now you literally have got to design the type of life that supports the freedom you just got. If we cast the devil out and you keep the same friends, particularly ones that host what just left you, then in your non-strategic movement, you will find a place of plateau in your freedom. So strategy is everything. Strategy is everywhere. When I went to this scripture about victory, right above that there was a proverb that said, anybody would rather live in a desert with scorching sun than in a room with an angry woman. I know you didn't see that one. How would you preach that at a women's conference? Nobody wants to be bothered with that, right? But there is a way, listen, for a female to use her influence to be heard strategically. Now, there are some people who are extremely valid in how they see things, what they see, what's important. But if they present it wrong, they may as well have been wrong with the information. There's a lot of people that's right that can't be heard because how they talk. I'm saying that to you because sometimes even your presentation needs to be strategic. Listen, it need not be manipulative. Now what manipulation is, I'm going in, my God, with the intention to get you to agree. And I'm going to control this discussion in such a way where I'm going to get my way anyway. That's manipulative. Strategy is I'm going to present this in the most palatable way possible. Use another phrase. Palatable, synonym. In the easiest way to digest for the person to hear. Does this make sense to you? Am I boring you? So you need a life of strategy. I think you need a strategy for every decade of your life. In my 20s, I want to. In my 30s, I need to. In my 40s, I'm doing this. And you need to look at it like a life ladder of what you're going to be evolving yourself into. Sun Tzu masterfully gave 5 principles for victory, or how to get it. One of the most phenomenal things that he says in this is the best wars are the ones that don't have to get physical. I can fight by weakening you so that we don't have to fight. Does that make sense? So these are wisdom keys that you need to appropriate for your career, for your calling, for your marriage, for your movement, and for the next hands you put your resume in. Am I talking Portuguese? If you're strategic, it doesn't matter what's wrong with the system. A strategist can escape the plight of the system. You got to know your way in and out. The name Deborah means weasel. And I believe God named that prophet that because a part of her calling would be to be invisible when necessary and to be visible when necessary. And if you don't learn how to go in and out among and around the people, you'll get trapped at being good at something, but you'll never be great at anything. Scream victory. That is our objective. We're going to excel. You will never be seen older and not better than your former self. There are people right now in your life. May I minister to you? There are people around you right now that's offended with the old you. That's because they don't have access to your updated version. So they're still reliving, watch me, and incarcerating somebody you used to be because you've created parameters around your evolution now. If you allow that conversation to confine you, you will be so busy being sad about people's judgments that you won't make swift movements. Listen, I'm about to say something heavy. Death to coming soon. Stop prematurely telling people what you're working on before it's done. We don't have to know that you building and you hustling and you can't let everybody know what you did. Hey, you just actually did say that there. You got to know how to protect it when it's vulnerable so that people don't know what to sabotage. Every real strategist needs to develop an eye for the spirit of sabotage. And when the devil sees that you're about to make some progress, if he can't stop it, he'll stall it. Jesus said it this way: your left hand does not have to know what your right hand is doing. You should have 20 projects you're working on that you ain't let nobody but your intercessors and your teachers know. I'm working in here. You let the people that are your advocates know and your instructors know to create room for wisdom. Let's go through these principles. Give me the first one. I want to read this together. Let's do this. Listen to this quote. If you don't remember anything from this book, because I know most of you probably ain't read it, but If you don't remember anything from this, remember this. If you know the enemy, if you know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself, but not the enemy, for every victory you've gained, you will suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy or yourself, you will succumb in every battle. The meat that is in that. Number one, you must recognize your opponent. First of all, repeat after me. I have no competition. Say it again. I have no competition. There are people that may be competing with you that you don't have to return the favor to. You know who I compete with? My last version of myself. I am not in competition with you. I'm not going to hurry up and write a book because you're writing one. I'm not going to hurry up and try to have a Facebook Live because I look at you and say, well, what about me? I got something to offer. And there's a lot of people who live their life in productive competition. And the bad thing is most people don't realize how non-wonderful it is. If it's mediocre, it's probably because it's competing with something outside of its sphere. I have no competition. That is a life motto of mine. It's a pillar. I compete with myself. I think it's interesting, especially when you're dealing with digital media and social media, that the people who don't like you follow you the most. I've always found it intriguing how your enemies always have updates. It's interesting. Always have it. You have to know your opponent. Now, let me make you uncarnal. Your opponent may or may not be a person. It may be a statistic. For example, when it comes to what we do in the context of transformational churches, my enemy is not other churches. There are amazing churches in Chicago. I love them. I bless them. I feel bad for every pastor, if I'm honest. I think we all suffering together, okay? So I don't have competition there. I am competing against a statistic. A statistic that says in 20 years the local church will be on the phone. I'm fighting up against a trend where people are no longer seeing the necessity of church life and community. That's my opponent. So I'm teaching you how to broaden your ideas of what an opponent is. If you think physical, you're going to miss the battle. Does this make sense to you? You're going to miss the battle. You got to know your enemy. Now, let's bring this to deliverance. It is vitally important that you know what's after you. Now, I know that one person has said amen. Thank you. But if you are so busy being condemned about what's on your blood, what grew up in your family, that you've not asked necessary questions of yourself or the people around you, first of all, you got to admit that you are the product of the thing you were born into. Now, that does not have to determine your outcome or end result, but you still need to know necessary stuff to find out why you get triggered by stuff. Very few adult triggers have adult roots. I'm going to say that again because you're very few adult responses have adult triggers. You have got to find what in the world does this hit in my old self that is not all the way matured or developed so that I can conquer through victory. Does this make sense to you? I was praying in tongues yesterday. I love to speak in a heavenly language. And a part of what came out as I prayed, I guess it was an interpretation, was my spirit was praying, help me to react better. Help me to react better. Now, in the natural, I would never pray that because I want to react how I want to react, particularly if I feel vindicated. But what the Lord showed me was for the level, the way, the influence that I'm taking you into, you have to be able to have specific reactions. They don't need, listen, when you get bigger in whatever you do, you have to be less impulsive. Will you be honest? How many of you have impulsive reactions sometimes? Be honest. Y'all be telling the fib. If we tested it, sometime, let's say a family member of yours walk up and accidentally smack the spit out your mouth. Most of us would struggle. Now, it would just be like So you need to train your reactions. Now listen, this is not in my point, but a part of knowing your enemy is understanding your meditation. Understanding how you're thinking about what you're in, what's after you, what's around you. Know your enemy. This morning we landed up on this, and know yourself. It is dangerous to be alive in 2020 when there is a spirit of lunacy on our nation and be not self-aware. People are literally losing their minds. There are so many narcissists in this room. And they got that way because they only spend time thinking about them and the way people see them. So when you live your life like that, you are 2 years away from a nervous breakdown. It's pending. And it's pending because you've not paid attention to your meditation life. This is why scriptures like, let the words of my mouth, the meditation of my heart be acceptable. Why? I don't just throw myself in the scripture to prove that I'm smart. I'm fighting for my sanity. I'm fighting for my reaction. I'm fighting for my responses so I don't let what you do make me miss my future. Say, help me react better. Your reactions to everything is an opportunity to everything. Have the right reaction. Have the right reaction. It should be said of you, this is a part of knowing yourself. It should be said of you that your old boss would welcome you back anytime. If you get fired, if you walk away to a new job, if you, for whatever reason, move, it should be said of you that your supervisor would welcome you back at all. If your superior says to you, woo-wee, you behaved in such a way that you were not as self-aware. And I'm hammering this because I don't want you to think you are exempt. Strong personality people are not always self-aware. Sometimes you introverts, and with as much as y'all like to brag on that, y'all are dysfunctional. You have major issues. Now, while we understand that you like your time and your personal time, you have the greater risk of not being self-aware because you've grown up in such a way where you're most at home by yourself. That's fine, but it gives you limited sight. Now, some extroverts are equally as crazy because they don't respect boundaries. So what they do is they want things on their term and adventure and go here and do this. And what happens with an extrovert, listen, you got to teach them the power of stillness. Extroverts make a lot of mistakes because they're so impulsive. Introverts tend to be calculated. If they're not saved, they sneaky. The bottom line is know yourself and learn to have emotionally detached conversations about how you show up. If I say you have a really bad mouth, the immature says, I know you ain't talking. But here's the deal. It may be true of you, but it don't mean it's not true of me. You got to develop a value for the criticism, even if you don't like the person giving it. At the end of the day, this person may not be in your life, but there still may be something that can enrich how you show up. Say, know yourself. When you know yourself, you know when to talk to who. When you know yourself, you know when you need to be up around for. I know if I'm sleepy, most conversations are not going to go well. If I've not had some eggs, God be praised, some salmon croquettes, hallelujah. In the morning, it's probably not best to give me bad news. I had a situation a few years ago where I woke up at about 6 to come to church and preach, and somebody who I guess had learned my pattern immediately texted me like 20 pages of disgruntled stuff. And I had to get up and preach in like an hour. I was in the barber chair livid. I call it, boy, I say, if you ever compromise the quality of the word to the people I serve for this foolishness on a Sunday morning, you will never have access to me again. It was an unwise handling of your access. You got to know when to show up with what level of information. Listen, but the selfish are also the non-self-aware. Anybody in here know some selfish people? You have to be self-aware. You have to be self-aware, all right? Now, so you have to know yourself and you have to know your enemy. And if you know both of those, it is impossible to lose. Scream yes. Now, if you know yourself, but you're naive about your enemy, then what's going to happen is you'll win and lose all the time. There'll be instability, inconsistency in what you do. For example, how are you going to excel in a market you're still casually dating? Most of us create products for markets we're still trying to flirt with and learn. You have to immerse yourself in the world of the thing you want to. There is a reason why when you're dealing with military, I love military life, because a part of what it reveals is you're not going to learn this on your terms. You have to literally depart your reality, your environment, what you know, and be thrown in, literally baptized into another world. So you can't be detached from a specific world and send your ideas and your products in that way. No, you've got to learn the markets you want to excel in. Does that make sense to you? Now, if you don't know nothing, then you will succumb in every battle. My burden for that, go to the next slide. I'm going to process this. My burden for that, and I want you to hear this with the love of God. One of the things that I think grieves the Lord is when women become wives, and by virtue of necessity, they bury every aspiration they ever had for the security of that relationship. So you notice what they do is they'll start getting depressed and they'll throw themselves into the stuff that has to do with the house. The problem with that is these children or this kid is going to turn 18. And when that child is no longer the reason for your connection, then you're going to be brutally awakened with the fact that we have grown so far apart that neither one of us are here. And God does not want, I feel like this, God does not want you in a relationship by necessity. He wants you to want to be with your spouse. He wants you to want to be with your wife. He wants you to want to be there. And he does not want you feeling imprisoned by romance. See, real love, I'm sorry, I had to get it out. Hey, glory. I'm searching for a real love. Listen, a real love will set you free. It's not going to reduce you and strip you and make you less than. A real love should make you come alive. You should feel flourished, coached. In your worst days when you don't feel like nothing, a real spouse is watering the seeds of greatness. No, there's still some more in you. Listen, my wife loved me so good. There are moments when I'm at my lowest and she's like, you still got more in you. And I don't be wanting to hear it. But the accountability that love provides, my God, I said the accountability. Real love provides accountability, something to live up to and answer. Number one, let's go fast. Principle number one of victory. He will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight. This is an extremely important battle principle, because what Sun Tzu is saying is, in any war, are you ready for this? One of your most important weapons is your energy. Now, there are people, places, things, conversations whose whole purpose is to gradually deplete you of energy, to make sure you don't have the stamina. Listen, how many of you have had a phone conversation with somebody that just felt like it was going from everlasting to everlasting? God's freeing you right now. How many of you just on the phone? And there are some people, I'm sure counselors understand this, that are not looking for a solution. They honestly just want to continue to go. And then what happens is you get off that phone, out that meeting feeling drained. I should not need a nap after talking to you. If you're going to, for whatever God is going to do in your life in March, you have a priority and a responsibility to protect your energy. You got to decide when you're going to bed. You got to decide when you're waking up. You got to decide, if I've got to fake smile to be there, I'm not going. A preservation of energy. I know when to fight, and I know when not to fight. The wisdom in that is knowing what's worth the fight. There are certain things that are worth the fight. One of the hardest lessons I've had to learn in my entire life is that I'm not the Holy Ghost. Now, that sounds simple to you, but when you get close to him, sometimes you run the risk of trying to act like you are him. One of the most devastating realities I came to is I can't change people. Oh my God. Ain't that I mean, it sounds easy, but think about how much you do, how much you say, how bad you hurt when people don't change. You have to realize you are not God. People will change when they're ready to change. And what you can do is advocate for the change, but you need to keep your peace as if they never gonna change. Does this make sense? And then if you want to have a mature discussion, find out why you attract so many people that don't like changing. Because it may be a mirror for something that's lurking in you. I know when to fight. I know when not to fight. The Bible term Aaron is going in and out among the people. Next principle. He will win who knows how to handle, these are victory principles, both superior and inferior forces. Listen to me. CEOs, COOs, CFOs, HR administrators, type assistants, whatever your issue or your role is. If you're the visionary, if you're the support, whatever your role is, you should treat your superiors with the exact same respect. Now I know, and some of these amens gonna be a lie. I didn't watch y'all be nasty at these altars. I didn't watch y'all be nasty over seats, parking spaces. And you know what's crazy is y'all will be mean to parking people out there until you find out they know the people at the top. And then you'll change their behavior when you see that you can move on in. Here's why this is important. If you're faking it to the people at the top and you are your real self to the people at the bottom, at some point you're going to slip. You're not going to be able to maintain that all the time. You're going to let your real self show. And I've been trying to tell y'all for years, folk talk. I'm telling you, everything you say, that little bird be like, boop, 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 boop. You got to know how to keep it consistent. If I say it behind your back, I'll say it in front. You have to know how to treat this. There is an entire teaching I think every business owner, every leader needs to establish around the power of delegated authority. What you can learn when you learn people for how they treat others. See, if you're the person at the top, y'all don't like this. If you're the head anything, and there are people around you with intention to get up, you might not be learning the real person. The real person is how they show up, listen, when they're forced to act with people who can't do nothing for them. If your character is only stellar around the people that have the power to promote you, you still fake. And I don't know about you. I'm about to clown. I'm so sick of fake Christians. I don't know what to do. Just fake. Hey girl, I can't stand that B. I love my church. This is an awful place. Y'all are phony, baloney. How do you lay your hands on somebody whose scandal you celebrated? Where in the Bible do we celebrate scandal? There That is not New Testament. It's carnal. But people do it when they're trying to move in to buy organizational currency. We're bashing you or knowing about you makes me worth more. You have to know how to interact with. Now, this is also true with God and man. You can't be crying before God and then have such a curtness in your mouth where you're so disrespectful in your tone that people don't even think you're worth conversation. Superior and inferior forces. My son, my only natural son, I call him yes, sir, because I want to be referred to by him as sir. I don't exempt myself from what I'm telling him to do. There are those of you that expect submission and you're rebellious. And the thing about submission is you don't get to customize your definition of it. Say superior and inferior. Now, it's a growth margin, no condemnation. You just got to grow until you are the same. And God can do so much with consistency. Consistency in character, consistency in temperament. In Jesus' name, I'm praying for y'all that y'all are not emotionally disturbed and turbulent where you allow a hard season to shape your character. Does this make sense? All right, next. He will win. Now, this is a powerful one. If you have a team, let me read it first. Sick of this. He will win whose army is animated by, oh, come on, yell it at me. Throughout. If you run anything, you should be able to look at the successive tiers of those that work you and discern a pure DNA. If you look at your team and can't see you, if you look at your employees or your work, the people on you, and the same spirit, see that absence of sameness and the presence of that strife is behind a lot of staggering. Have you ever tried to move a thing and it kept, when it does that, it's because something probably is not the same. You should be able to look at those that follow you and see yourself there. Does that make sense? If you are the visionary, the progenitor of everything, number one, it's your responsibility to set the tone, and it's your responsibility to inspect the DNA. No matter what you build in life, somebody is going to come with the hopes that you're going to put them on. And I'm going to tell you how they do in church spaces. Can you mentor me? Or they start doing it like, hey, Ma. Now, some people are just naive, but there are some people who have a motive that's behind flattery. The same spirit. You are not, I pray that none of you have to live through looking at your ranks, seeing a strange DNA. It's an awful thing to look at that and be like, that's not me. That is not like me. It's awful. I don't want to see that, because if you do, you may be losing and not know why. And it could be that there's a divisive DNA in the thing that what you build. If you are the head of anything at the top, the vision is your responsibility. And it's people's jobs to add and contribute and execute it, but not to alter it. Had a guy counseled a couple of weeks ago. He was in a situation where he was like involved in like a multi-site thing. And there's a guy at the top, and there is another guy in like a smaller situation that was connected to the same thing. And in my travels, he said, hey, you're doing this multi-site thing and you're really doing it. How do I get my leader to see my vision? I was like, see, the problem is you've entered into a storyline already being written, and you are an easily replaceable piece. You ought not ever go to somebody under a mandate from God bringing your agenda to a vision. I call the pastor, I say, hey, get rid of old boy. I'm that friend. Hey, fire him, please, immediately. Because what's going to happen is when they should be pointing people to the broader vision, they're building people to themselves. All right? Next. He will win who prepared himself, who waits to take the enemy unprepared. The consistency in this is that you can never be too prepared. The key to this on a personal level is you should be always evolving. If you're always changing, one of the things you got to realize, listen to me, your enemy is not. He's not changing. So if you evolve, the way he learns or the way your adversary learns your evolution is by your reactions and your responses to stuff. What it looks like is that in every season of promotion, the devil will try to pinch something to see if it still hurts. Why? Why? Listen to me, sugar. Nothing restricts promotion like fear of pain. So if the enemy knows it still hurts, he's going to allow similar occurrences to see if it's healed or just closed. Why? Because you're not going to move. If you're looking at a scenario, or even what I'm hearing in my spirit is even opportunity. If you're looking at an opportunity, trying to discern, do I go in this or not? If something in there looks like it's going to hurt, you're going to be unhealthily cautioned about taking advantage to seize a moment. Does this make sense? So preparation is, I don't use the last pain to teach me what I can and cannot do next. I use the last pain to teach me the power of recovery. And if I've recovered well, I'll throw myself into any opportunity that is of God. If I've not recovered well, then I'm going to stagger in my obedience and subsequently I'll be defeated. Does this make sense to you? Now, here is the wisdom. If it still hurts, don't beat yourself up. Be honest. Honesty is a powerful medicine. If you're honest about it, then we got a premise to heal. Does this make sense? That's honesty. You need honesty. And you need to create an environment where honesty is welcome. In your marriage, it needs to be welcome. In your friendships, it needs to be welcome. If I have to lie to be connected to you, then the truth is we're not really connected. Because the real truth is you're connected with the version of me that accommodates you. Even if that ain't me, all right? So you need honesty. You need to be prepared. Let me ask you a rhetorical question because I want you to be alive. Really meditate on how ready you are and what you do for preparation. What are your preparation practices? Now, in your mind, you may say, I don't exactly know what all I'm preparing for. Well, prepare for what you do know. And then the more prepared you are, the more clear you're going to become. This year, essentially, I'm responsible for a lot of churches, but directly, this staff is inseminating 5 churches. 5 on 1. So you got Maine, you got South, you got West, you got New York, and then you got DC. And none of them are minor churches. Our new church plants are bigger than the average church in America. I'm not ready yet. I'm trying hard. But I know I've got about 8 to 9 weeks to change some regiment issues, to adjust it. Now, how many of you are prophetic? You hear God. You discern the voice of the Lord. All right, listen. Use that ability to ask God what your days need to now look like. I have been throwing myself on the altar. How do I approach this like, what do I do when you're tired from a flight? What do I do when I got a class I've got to finish and a meeting I'm supposed to have? How do I navigate this? And here's the problem. It's not going to ever stop. If you intend to be successful, you're just going to be organizing chaos for the rest of your life. Because growth comes like that. Does this make sense? And then what I'm sensing prophetically is some of you are going to experience spontaneous momentum where it drops on you out of nowhere. But if you're not prepared, even that momentum will overwhelm you. Listen to me. You have to prepare for everything. Success, fast pace, slow pace. You got to prepare for all of that. If you do not, you will not get the victory. Come on, I'm finishing this up. He will win. This is the final one. That has military capacity. That is not interrupted with or interfered with by the sovereign. In this case, he's talking about an emperor or a ruler. But in our case, we're talking about situations beyond our control. Life happens to everybody, but leaders handle life differently. We don't have the privilege to handle life like people that don't have responsibility. Does this make sense to you? So he will win who has military capacity. A part of what that means is that you need to finally finally accept your training, your drills, your orders. You literally have to, we've been saying for years, I'm a soldier in the army of the Lord. Just a line. Because we're not a very militant people. We don't militantly pursue things. We don't militantly or aggressively study. We don't militantly practice. There is a drill that's necessary for people that live like they're in a war. Now, I'm not trying to give you organizational or congregational or personal or interpersonal PTSD. What I'm trying to do is help you realize that everything in life that's worth having is worth fighting for. But if you don't know how to fight, you're not going to make it in life. Period. So I'm not teaching this like everybody's an entrepreneur or everybody's going to start something, but you need a strategy for something. You need to be smarter than the moment you are in. You need a strategy for winning souls. You need a strategy. I even think for those of you that write, there is a strategy for when to write certain things. I have seen people that have had right revelation, but it was the wrong moment. And because it was the wrong moment, it didn't bear the weight that it should have had to make the impact. There is I'll say it. The success of the song is the season. The success of the song is the season. Have you ever heard a great song that didn't do as much as it could have done? A part of the effectiveness, and I'm not a songwriter, but a part of the effectiveness is that you got to discern what's going on in the life of a thing to develop the lyric that people will grab to navigate through that season. So you got to have the eyes to understand what's going on in the world around us and create an anthem, a melody, a poem, something to grab a hold of the heart. It can be beautifully written and poorly timed. So think about that with every angle of your life. Solomon said it with love. Solomon said, do not wake her up before you're ready. Because it's hard. Once that lady get up, it's difficult putting her back to sleep. And then if you have like a life cabinet that have varying perspectives about what you need, then you're going to be under several pressures about when you should and when you should not. Now, I'm going to be honest. I know that dating as a Christian is different. And it's that way for men and women, honestly. You sisters have it bad. And you have it bad because we have a culture that's been preparing women for wifehood for years, and their idea of preparing men is tailgate parties. And then, oh no, I can't say that. So our casual, the French term is laissez-faire approach to men, got a bunch of quote unquote ready women for a bunch of men that are not necessarily ready for the responsibility. The other crisis, if I'm honest, is that we have a bad definition of wife. We hear wife and think woman. But wife is a behavior. It is a character. It is a discipline. I know you don't think it, but it's also a demeanor. Wife is a language. God be praised. Wife is a sway. It really is. Wife is a habit of showing up as a support of something. Now, if I'm fair, a wife can't be a good wife if she ain't got nothing to support. That's why I need to meet with these brothers Tuesday. Y'all get y'all vision together so you can have something to activate the helpmate in that woman. You can activate it. And the same is true. If a woman is serene and supportive enough and becomes your personal oasis, she can activate the king in you. That is my physical permanent vacation. And when I'm around it, I'm rested enough to be better. That's the whole objective of marriage and wifehood. Does that make sense to you? So don't allow, especially, what do you call that thing? The need for or the desire for companionship, which is natural, to determine whether or not you're ready to start doing it or not. Everybody needs companions, right? But you need to have an honest SWOT analysis of your life, where you are, what you can handle, and where your emotional expenditures are, all right? I want men who can express themselves to stop dating. But what you do is You make women figure you out and you help them become schizophrenic. Because you want them to learn your movements when you can just have a conversation about what you need and what you desire. It's about readiness. Say, it's about readiness. All right, so that's all I've got for you and that. Bye. Let me pray for you, and we're going home. They got barbecue downstairs and escape rooms and all that stuff. But I want to pray for you and what's about to happen, all right? Give me some music real quick.